Hi. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Meet the Pioneers. So we use these fireside chats to dig into the fascinating world of AI and automation in accounting and host trailblazers who are pioneering the charge towards the future of accounting. I'm your host, Kanaya Irichalo, and I'm the Success Director here in Synergy. Today, we have the privilege of being joined by three extraordinary people. We've got the dynamic duo and robotic bookkeeping pioneers, Howard Smith and Gaynor Hutton of the NumberCrunchers. And then we also have Richard Brewin of Progress BB. I have a feeling I've murdered your name, Richard, so apologies for that. But Richard is going to be co-hosting the event with me. And I think together, these pioneers will share their unique experiences and strategies, offering you practical advice and actionable steps to harnessing the power of AI and automation in your own accounting practice. So sit back and prepare to take notes, and let's examine topics that promise to not only inspire, but also empower you to confidently step into the future of accounting. All right. So, Gaynor, Howard, Richard, do you want to do a quick introduction of yourselves? Probably start with Gaynor.
Okay, thanks, Kaneo. Yeah, I'm Gaynor Hutton, partner at the NumberCrunchers. And I don't know how long we've been using the bot now, maybe 6 months. So more on that relationship going forward. But NumberCrunchers is a small, medium-sized supplier for businesses who have accounting, bookkeeping, tax situations. We have about 400 clients at the moment, and we've been growing year on year. So we're a developing business, started with 2 partners, and we've now got 9 employees. So yeah, all that in the space of 5 years. So hopefully we're going in the right direction.
Awesome. Thanks, Gaynor. And Howard, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Howard, working with the NumberCrunchers. Sorry that it's coming up with a screen that says Howard. It's because I'm using the mobile here. I'm another partner in the NumberCrunchers, the original one. I think we've been working with a bot for, like Gaynor said, about 6 months. And I think the main thing is we were always quite modern and worked with Xero and Dext. So we've actually just found ways of making the bot work for us to cover some of the more automated tasks. So yeah, we're going to find out a bit more about that today. This is our 10th year. As Gaynor said, we've got 9 employees, and hopefully we'll have another 10 years with a lot more successes. And now we have Kaneo on board as well.
Awesome. Yep, another 10 years. So Richard.
Morning, everyone. Richard Brewin, a chartered accountant. I'm in my 43rd year now as a chartered accountant. 1981 to 1993 was working my way up the career ladder with small regional, national, international firms. 93 to 2008, we set up, grew, sold our own accounting firms. And since 2008, I've worked as a mentor and a coach to accountants themselves, so to accountants who own their own firms across the UK, but also working with firms in Australia, North America, etc. So yeah, I spend my life talking to accountants these days, which is a huge privilege.
Awesome. So welcome, you guys. And guys, if anybody has any questions, please pop it in the chat, in the group chat, and then we'll get around to it. But we already have a laundry list of questions that we're going to be asking these guys today. But as everyone knows, I think the question on everybody's mind is what are bots? What is AI? What's RPA? So I think that'll probably be a very good place for us to start. And for that, I have a very short presentation, if the technology will allow it. So let's see if this works. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Fab. All right. So what is AI? and what is robotic process automation? What's the relationship between them? Why are we talking about bots? So in very simple terms, if I had to explain AI in terms that I can understand, that everybody can understand, I'll say, imagine you have a very smart assistant who learns from every task you give them and every conversation you have with them on a daily basis, right? Now, this assistant gets better over time at predicting what you need before you even ask, right? So take, for instance, if you regularly send a report to a client or to regulatory bodies like HMRC every Friday, say, AI can remind you to do so. So even before you remember, it would remind you that you have to send out that report. But not only that, it could actually go a step further to do it for you based on your past reports. So it studies your patterns, and based on your past reports and reporting schedule, it can actually send it on your behalf, right? Now, on the other hand, we have RPA. So think of RPA as a robot worker who can do repetitive computer tasks really quickly and without making mistakes, right? So again, for example, if you had to copy information from hundreds of emails into a spreadsheet, it could take you hours to do, and you probably find it quite boring after a while, right? So an RPA bot can do this task in a fraction of the time, and it will follow specific rules you set up to complete tasks just the way you want every time without getting tired or without getting bored, right? So in essence, you've got two pieces of technology that together are even more powerful. So AI is like having a brain that learns and adapts, making smart decisions along the way, whereas RPA is like having a fast and accurate pair of hands that can perform tedious tasks automatically based on preset instructions. So together they can automate complex processes, making work faster and freeing up time, right? Now, that's AI and RPA in a nutshell, right? But how does that translate, or how can we relate that to what we do in accounting? Yeah. So think of RPAs as robots that can be trained or are being trained as we speak to do those routine bookkeeping and payroll tasks that weigh you down, that take up a lot of your time. So things like what we have on the screen, you've got clicking buttons to publish transactions, either in Dex or HubDoc, clicking more buttons to reconcile transactions in Xero or QuickBooks, downloading files from emails, uploading them into Xero, BrightPay, or any other application, copy pasting data. Sorry, have I jumped it? Copy pasting data from Excel into BrightPay, and the list goes on and on. But really, some of the things that we've got on the screen are things that you probably find yourself doing on a daily basis. Now, you have one bot, one practice bot that can be trained to do a lot of all those things, freeing up massive amounts of time. Now, we know that most of these non-value add things are if-then statements, so it can be trained to do most of that. But I'll show us an example. So if we take bank reconciliation, which we looked at previously. So these are standard steps you follow, right? So step one, you log into the application. Step two, you will reconcile transactions that meet certain parameters. And then step three, you will repeat the same process for all business accounts belonging to clients. And step four, you repeat everything for all clients. Simple, straightforward, right? So this is an example of what can be achieved. You've taken the robot, you've trained it to do this task based on how you guys operate within your practice. And then voila, we're going to continue having a conversation while the robot is working in the background or in the foreground in this example, right? So I think while this is happening, because what you're saying is the bot's just logging into Xero, using his own credentials, email and password, selecting a business account, and it's going to start reconciling the same way you and I would. So it's scrolling through, looking for transactions, and we'll be clicking OK for those ones that match. Oh, is this your experience with, I mean, Gaynor, how do you want to, this is a very good segue into your own experience. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey and what initially sparked your interest in this step?
Yeah, I can take that question, Kanil. essentially we are business owners. We're not accountants. And as business owners, you're always looking for efficiencies. And I think when you approached us regarding the bot, it was sort of like why wouldn't we? If this is efficient and it works, why would you not do this? From a business owner's point of view, I can't understand why you wouldn't do it. So we obviously then made contact, and you showed us a very similar demonstration. And I think I wouldn't put it quite in the same spectre as when I met Howard's eyes across the table one evening the first time I saw him. But there was certainly that light bulb moment where we just sort of looked at each other, and it was like, this could be very good. So I think the first thing was we were open-minded to this sort of technology and the efficiencies and the repetition of tasks. We could very much identify in the business that that's where we were losing efficiencies, losing money, stunting our growth. So for something to come along that could potentially partner us to solve all those issues, we were open from the beginning. And I think that's where it began really for us.
How?
Exactly that. I think people will look at this and be thinking, well, it doesn't take me long to actually go through and click on okay. It's really that's gonna, it doesn't take me long at all. Or I could click on cash coding and just click on okay, and it would do a whole lot. But the reality is that when you have sort of 300 to 400 clients and you're growing, is that every second sort of counts. So it's not really the sort of like, oh, it's only taking me a minute in here, or I might say 5 minutes in that client, but it's 5 times 300. That's exactly what you're saving. And we had done some sort of work in the background on our standard chart of accounts for our customers. We've done a number of sort of already sort of strong fundamental sort of process control within our business. So we knew what we were doing. And I think the bot was just the key that enabled us to process all of those ideas that we'd had and those strong set of rules, but without us being involved at a daily basis. We just come in and pick up the ones that are left. So I don't think you'll find the answer on any one particular client, but you'll find the answer across your 300. And don't ever think it's just this one client that will save the time, because it's not.
Awesome. All right. So it's more, if you look at the bigger picture rather than each individual client, then you start seeing the potential. So I think I'm going to switch to you, Richard. So from your experience coaching accounting firm leaders, right? What are the most significant challenges firm leaders face when integrating any new technology? I mean, AI and RPA is just one, but generally speaking, what are those challenges and how can they address it?
I think most of the challenges sit inside the head. I get the pressures that accounting and bookkeeping leaders are under these days when it comes to simply keeping up with tech, because there are so many developments, there's so much new stuff coming to the market every day. You talk to somebody else and they will recommend what they're using, or they'll criticize what they're using. And so right from the outset, the accountants have got a challenge about, what decisions should I be making? What is best for my firm? What fits in? Do we have the skills? Do we know what we're doing? There's a real fear factor attached around all of this. And that's even before you start thinking about the client interaction, which is one of the biggest practical challenges, which would be interesting to get the NumberCrunchers view on how to address that. But I think it is that I always say you've got to start somewhere, and the reality is you start from where you are today. I think that with the levels of automation that we're now talking about, this is the first time that I've really got excited about digitalization within the profession, because yes, we've had the journey through Xero and through Dext and the route we've gone, and I see people talking about the digital firm when actually the level of digitalization is relatively small. One of the things that always drives me on is the lack of progress that we've made in the 40 years that I've been there. I still talk to firms who do quarterly bookkeeping, quarterly VAT returns, which we did 40 years ago. And yet the information is potentially there in real time now. And what we're now seeing with what you've just demonstrated, for instance, is just how easy it is to make a fundamental change in how your business thinks. So it's not just the fact that you're bringing in another piece of software. It's the fact that as a business as a whole, you're changing your thinking on how you approach your client service, how you approach your tasks, how you deliver on things. For me, this level of automation, ironically, isn't about the automation. It's about the gap that it then creates for the people. And what you can do, what your team can do, what you can do with client relationships, because you've freed up stuff that, in essence, up until this point in time, you've been doing largely the same way that you were doing it 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So it's a fundamental change, and fundamental change is scary. We'd all go, okay, I'm not a tech wizard. I don't need to be. Just plug it in, follow the instructions, go with it. Without trying to demean the dynamic duo as you described it earlier. It's I know Gaynor's background is slightly different. Howard is an accountant like me. I don't think either of us would describe ourselves as tech geniuses. I'm happy when I can just put my information onto a new phone, let alone anything else. But this is, I don't need to understand the internet to use it. And I think it's taking that sort of approach. We do tend to overthink things as accountants. And here's an opportunity to I think for the first time really, to fundamentally change how firms work. Everything else has been a gradual progression. This can be almost an overnight revolution. And that's what a lot of firms see.
Interesting. Would you, Howard, it's probably, would you agree in terms of the challenges? I was asking, so in terms of challenges, what challenges did you encounter during the, trying to adopt the technology?
I think Richard has already hit on a couple of sort of like must-have points. We had already adopted Xero and Dex. That's our sort of format. And so the technology is already there. You can operate Xero and you can operate Dex or any of these, but then you can actually work and develop the bot and find ways that you could use a bot to do that. So we were already 100% Xero, 100% Dex. The other systems are great. You can use QuickBooks, but we picked our stools so that we are experts in that one field. And so if customers come to us and they were on QuickBooks, we'll do a conversion. But ultimately, we already had that system. So we're defining what our service is and how we deliver that to the client. So they will have Xero, they will have Dex, and they will work with our chart of accounts. So that automatically puts them into a sort of group, and it means we can deliver better and excellent service through that because they feel like we're already connected on that. And the other thing I would say is that our client base isn't any different than any other accountant's customer base. They struggle with technology. They struggle with the idea of text and photographing, and it's always been in a shoebox or whatever it might be. And Gaynor always sort of says to them, or can you use Facebook? Do you take a photo of your grandchild or whatever that might be? And the answer is yes, always. We say, well, you can use Dex then. There's no problem. And from Dex, so the challenges are customer adoption. But if you lay out your stall in a quick and easy way, it actually becomes a desirable thing for them. So they're on board from the beginning. And, spend a bit of time with them at the beginning, invest that time for them to understand why they're doing it. Because ultimately, accountants can't do a good job if we're starved of information, and this is just a good way of making that more readily available to us, so we can actually shine and do a good job. And I think we're great because we're actually getting on with it because we've taught them how not to starve us.
Yes. Okay, and so, from what you're saying, it sounds like the challenges, there are things that you need to do. You need to prepare your mindset to be able to take on technology. But once you've done that, once you start on that journey, what are some of the things that you found? That is probably one for you, Gaynor, in terms of how has the adoption of your bot, I think is it Alexa or Bertie? I don't know which one it is. But how has Alexa or Bertie transformed your day-to-day operations?
Yeah, our bot has an identity crisis. Howard calls it Alexa and I call it Bertie. But he doesn't mind. I mean, this is the beauty of a bot. You can call it what you like and it's never going to get hurt feelings. So I think I mean, it makes it sound very simple and it makes it sound very biased, but I don't think there was much adoption friction for us. I think, like Howard alluded to there, our shop was in order. We were very, very strong on what we were offering. Chart of accounts was the same. Everything was very tight in the business anyway, but it was also very manual. So we had to pay somebody to go in and click OK, even if the rules from Dex to the bank were matching. You know, there was still a physical function. So what we did, we set off with 10 customers as a trial, and we really monitored them hard. And I probably harassed the living daylights out of you, Kineo, in the early stages, sorry, because we wanted it as tight as we could. And if we were getting a bot report every night, which we were getting, and I could see that it hadn't cleared a customer that I felt it should have cleared, be like, okay, why didn't this happen? And it's like most automated systems, 90%, well, actually 100% of this is operator error. So we had told the bot to do something, but we hadn't actually told it the correct thing to do. And I think there was a couple of occasions early on when we walked through the steps and straight away be like, oh, that's what we've done. Just a screen that was wrong, permissions that hadn't been opened. So I think the initial 10 clients, they were definitely sort of the pioneers in terms of getting the system right. So we were really tight on them. And I think we left them running for a good couple of months, Caneo, until we were 100% happy that they were as good as they could be. And then essentially when we flipped the switch on the others, that part was pretty much overnight because we had done the grunt work on those initial 10. And I think that would be a recommendation for anybody adopting this technology. Get it absolutely tight with 1 or 2 or 10 clients, whichever you choose. Because if you did it with 100 and there's 100 not really doing that well, you would be like, oh, this isn't working, and it's quite easy to chuck the towel in. But if you do it with 1 or 2 and you're actually honest with yourself and say, I haven't spent enough time on this, I need to put the effort in. It's like most things in life, you only get out of this what you put in. So put the effort in and you'll get the rewards out, which is what we are now seeing.
I think it's a key point, Kaneo, because there needs to be the accounting firm, bookkeeping firm need to know first and foremost that they know what they're doing first. And that idea of essentially walking in from the shallow end, testing it as you go is how you find out. We all think we know what happens within our own business and our own processes, but the reality is we don't when we take it to this level of automation. So it needs that clarity of leadership that those at the top of the firm know what they're doing and why. That the team are engaged in that process from the outset, so they too know the process that you're going through. And then you get this gradual rollout to clients, because it's rather like the point Howard was making there with Facebook. We seem to think that we have this fear of telling clients what to do, because it's because we're used to trying to give every single client a bespoke solution. But everybody else that the client deals with online, the client deals with on the provider's terms. We don't go to Sky and tell them how we want to be served, or we don't go to our bank and tell them how we want to be served. We look at the systems that they all use and go, well, that's the one that fits me best. I'll use that one. And that's what clients will do with their accountant. If the accountant comes and says, look, this is how it's going to work, this is all you need to do, and is clear in that, okay, there'll be a degree of reluctance from some clients simply because none of us like change, and we all, if we're used to our accountant continually bailing us out, we'd sooner that's the way it carried on. But when the accountant comes on and says, no, this is the way it's going to work in future, they'll go, okay, because that's the easy thing to do. But it needs that clarity from the firm first of all to say, this is how it works, this is what you do, leave the rest to us.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it makes both the client and the accountant happier when you both know what you're doing and what the outline terms are.
The expectations are, we always we use the analogy of McDonald's, and basically there is a recipe in McDonald's that everybody follows. So everybody that drives into McDonald's knows what they're getting. And it's pretty much the same at the NumberCrunchers. They come in, we sit them down, and it's a little bit softer than I perhaps present it, but this is how it works, and this is what you will do. And if they don't do it, we can't help them, and we will disengage clients who don't fit our bill because actually they gum up our business. And I'm really delighted that Mrs. Jones is thrilled with our service, but actually if I'm spending 5 hours to get Mrs. Jones delighted, that's not good for the NumberCrunchers. And I think you have to start thinking like business owners. And I think from my I haven't always been an accountant, and from an outsider's point of view, I think that's the trouble with a lot of accountants. They think like accountants. Big surprise. But if you start thinking like a business owner, every single business I've ever gone into to streamline and get efficiencies, you look at it very, very harshly, and where can I improve? Where can I improve? And you don't go into McDonald's and tell them when you want the burger flipped, and it's similar with this. So when we did bring the automation on in terms of the bot, I would think 2 out of about 400 clients noticed. I think that's about right, Howard. Is that the stats?
Yeah, very much so. We had a couple where it was a bit keen on a couple of sales items, a couple of mismatches, but then the bot is perfectly because it follows the rules perfectly. If it does occasionally post one and you think, oh, I wouldn't have done that, then tweak the rule. And the other thing is that the bookkeepers aren't perfect anyway. We already had, we look at something like GoDaddy. Where am I going to put that? Am I going to put it in IT and technology, or am I going to put it in advertising? All these types of things, and all of that is dispensed with by consistency throughout our team. Because 90% of our team is Alexa or Bertie, as I like to call her. So and really consistent across the whole customer base. There's no sort of, I like to put it here, or I like to use exempt expense VAT instead of no VAT or whatever. It's just great, so really consistent. And to deliver a consistent service, they have to let us, run our shop and in the way that we like.
I think just to Howard touched there on the VAT returns, I think from my point of view, so we have a policy that whoever does the bookkeeping on a client will not do the VAT returns. So we're always sort of cross-checking each other's work. And the VAT returns for the last while have come to me for various reasons. And the level of consistency, because we set the bot rules, and like Howard said, if it's reverse charge expenses, exempt VAT, whatever it is, suddenly the VATs are really, really tight. And the VAT review becomes quicker because you're not having to go in and sort things. So, the savings and the efficiencies and the scalability of our business now, because of the bot, is very exciting. And a bit like Richard, I love the fact you said that you hadn't been particularly exciting despite being an accountant for 40 odd years, Richard. But you're right, it's a really backward industry in a lot of ways. And I think this has the potential to change that.
And that point you make there about reviewing VAT returns, for instance, because Howard was talking about the time that it saves in terms of doing the clicks, and people say, "Oh, it doesn't take very long," and all the rest of it. But it's actually the real benefit here is what else you can then do better, because firms are held back because it takes them too long to get around to reviewing work, for instance. They don't get enough time for training and development. They don't get enough time for client conversations. They don't get enough time for simply thinking about what they're doing as a business and what they're going to be doing next. How do we improve? How do we get our quality better? They don't have the time to do that because they're always working reactively on time-pressed deadlines. What this does is free up that time. And to my mind, that's where the real value in this is. This isn't about getting rid of people, cutting jobs and all the rest of it. This is looking at what are already good teams, but who are doing hard-worked, mundane, low-value stuff and going, right, let's do something that's smarter. Let's spend that time more interesting. If the industry has a challenge with recruiting staff and retaining staff, great. Let's give them something more interesting to do, because that's going to help that. So it's not just about the efficiencies that the automation brings, which themselves are valuable, but it's about all of a sudden we've got time to do some really good stuff. And that's why I get excited by it, because all of a sudden we can do the things that have frustrated at so many accountants so long that they've just not been able to do.
It frees up so much time, I think is one of the key messages for me. And if you think about it, I mean, we look at the tech and we get excited. I think I probably said the same thing to you guys when we had the initial conversation, is the fact that this technology has been around for decades. It's not new tech. It's tech that the likes of BDO and Deloitte and KPMG and name them, the SJP has it, name them really. All the big players have it. They've had it for years. That's how they get efficiencies, right? But not a very good message. But Plan, as an example, I don't know if you've been watching the news, but Plan, as an example, said they have a bot now that's doing the work of effectively 700 people. that's the level of efficiencies that companies are getting. So really, I think it is the future. There is work to be done, like every other thing that's in technology. And I think, Richard, I mean, you did a very good job of explaining. I mean, there's change that needs to happen. There's change in mindset. There's change in hearts and minds. People need to understand it and how it adds value to them for them to be able to adopt it. So not just the owners of the business, but even their staff. Nobody wants to go into work every morning to click a button or to click buttons all day long. Well, I would imagine nobody does, so.
I know a few who feel quite safe in that environment, but yeah, I mean, you're quite right. And I think it's what you were saying there about what the big boys have been doing for years. That's why it's, all of a sudden now we have firms like your own who because of the way that open bankings work, because of the way APIs are working, all of a sudden for the normal accounting firm, for the small accounting firm, of which there's, depends on your figures, but for say 45,000 in the UK, we've got the top 200, fine, they've got their resources, they've got their IT specialists, they can do this for themselves. But for 45,000 firms, we've been dependent on the big fintechs to do it for us, and they just have not been adapting quick enough to the progression. So now there are firms like your own who can come in and go, well, guys, we'll just partner up with you, we'll do it. And that's where the opportunity then gets exciting for all of those 45,000 firms, of which 15,000 still won't go down this route because they're happy to just click the buttons and do the returns. And I'm not criticizing that. That's the world they want to live in. But for those who've always wanted to do more, and particularly those who've always wanted to do more for their clients, this is the opportunity. And I don't need an IT director to come in and do it for me, because you touch phone you guys up and go, well, stick us on your trial because we want to do this.
Absolutely. So Gaynor, Howard, for you, what are the tasks that you've assigned to your bot today? And again, thinking more long term, what's in the roadmap? What are you thinking in terms of the next 2 years?
Yeah, I think we started off quite cautiously, which I expect everybody would. We did the 10 bookkeeping, and that was great. So I think we started with 0 and matching the bank reconciliations. We then sort of clicked, hang on, we can get this into Dext. So quite quickly we got it into Dext. So instead of somebody looking at Dext and then looking at the bank and then clicking go, we were seeing none of those transactions. They were just gone and matched beautifully. So that was like the sort of the main step. And then we're like, well, could it do the payrolls? And the answer is categorically yes, it can do the payrolls. It can make bills to pay based on the payrolls. And we're now doing all of that. We're in the pipeline, I think, pension uploads. I think that would be quite an easy win, especially with some of the pension providers who are easier to work with than others, shall we say. So again, we're sort of prescribing a little bit on our clients. If they come on as new pension, we'd like you to use this particular one, which we think is easier to interact with the bot. So again, we're sort of just shepherding our clients down a route where, it doesn't particularly give us an advantage, but it makes our process more efficient and it gives the delivery to the client much better feel, much cleaner. So I think those are the kind of things. But I mean, I think we also have so we send out birthday cards to our clients on the birthday. We're going to automate that with Bertie. That'll be fun. What else do we do? VAT returns. We're going to run the checks because we've got a very prescriptive VAT check. And I think at this point we might get into the stage of it checking its own work, which actually should be fine because its own work should be perfect. But we've got other flags that flag anything untoward on the balance sheet and things. So I think, from Howard and I's point of view, it's super exciting. I mean, I think we are building a brand, building a business. We've got the trademark on the NumberCrunchers. So, we definitely have a franchise model in our sites. And I think if we can get the base package that we're giving a franchisee, including a bot, that is a valuable, I mean, you just have a plug and play accountancy business. All you need is somebody to get business. And quite frankly, the more we do, the more business we get. And I think the better we do the business, our reputation, and the bot, has contributed to that over the last 6 months. So yeah, there's we've made a start. We made a very good start. But I think the scope of this could be really exciting.
Yeah, I would add to that and just say, like Gaynor said, we started with zero, but once you start the process of thinking like that, it sort of opens up your mind. And like Gaynor said, initially we had a strong sort of zero set, but we couldn't reconcile everything in the bank because everything was indexed. Then we thought, well, actually, we need to go into Dext. And so, our staff get really excited about setting rules in Dext, so these are the rules and with the VAT numbers and where we want it to go. And so that, Bertie comes in. And so we've got it now on a sort of one night, it will log into Dext and it will look at all of the transactions and it will push them. If it finds a match in a bank, it uses autofill, pushes through. You can use things like Zero Bureau, if your customers are not really using Zero, but you want to, so autofill and that, so it pushes all those transactions through, and then the night after it goes into Zero and it matches off all the greens. So, and that's just a continual, perpetual process. Monday night Dex, Tuesday night Zero, Monday night Dex, Tuesday night Zero, 23rd of the month single director payrolls. All of these processes just constantly go, and the staff are getting engaged because it's saving them time. And they love it, just like, oh, amazing. I've just come in, rather than, logging into that client, they just log in and it's like, oh, great, the rules are really done. And it's like Gaynor says, I think, VAT checks would be great so that it would just highlight what we need to physically look at rather than us look through all of the sort of the spreadsheets. We'll just highlight them in yellow or whatever we tell it to do. So, yeah, a lot of ideas. But I think if you start with the one idea, and Zero is a good start for that. It will start your thought process, and you'll find other ways. And we're already buzzing with more and more ideas. And the idea is that, again, it makes that time. That time is free to do. We are not particularly moving down the advisory route, although many might use that time to become an advisory accountant. My plan is to take more time off work. Or Gaynor's plan is to actually have more customers, but we just do more of the regular work. That's where we like it. We'll advise on basics, things like cars and the dividends and the structure and that sort of things. But that time is yours to use as you wish. It doesn't always have to be plowing back into growing or whatever. You could just have an easy life. Maybe it's a 4-day week for you. I don't know.
I think it raises an interesting point, Howard, because on the one hand, we live in a 24/7 world now. Clients don't stop thinking before 9 o'clock and after 5 o'clock, and they're used to dealing with everything else on their phone in between. So there's this pressure on firms and accounting firms to offer a 24/7 service. But at the same time, we're into flexible working, we're into better life balances, particularly post-COVID. People have got different priorities. So this is one way that you match the two, because you made a comment to me before that your clients are impressed because they're going, look, my accountant's working on my stuff right now and it's 11 o'clock at night or whatever it may be. It's that feeling that you're constantly supporting them and constantly processing. But at the same time, you could be just sitting back, chilling out, watching Neighbours, whatever it may be you do.
Building the business, Richard. That's what he could be doing, building the business.
I noticed the frown, Gaynor, when he said that he was going to cut back on his hours.
We haven't discussed this, let me tell you.
So in terms of results, right? So what kind of numbers are we looking at here?
I think we're processing over sort of 10,000 transactions a month at least. We've got some big winners in there, but the main thing is like, as Richard said, the clients feel that we're constantly working. So where their old accountant, they would log in and they would see really high numbers of bank reconciliations to do, because they only go in once a quarter and then they clear it all out and it gets done really quick. So what our customers see is that constant activity, so they never see it too much. In fact, our meeting with our Dext account manager, we've got a really high Dext upload to a postings fee or sort of a ratio. So it's something like 4 or 5 days. So it's processed within 4 or 5 days. So that encourages the customer to do more because they know that you're doing it. Whereas if they're just clogging up Dext and you've got 400 items. So we're finding that everything sort of like the success is breeding success. And we're only 6 months into it, but already people are sort of feeling, oh wow, they're really on it, just works all the time. And actually what we're doing all the time is the easy stuff, you know, and that's what Alexa's, the stuff that doesn't need thought. And I've always said sort of like, if you're looking at the process, whether you're doing a VAT return or whether you're doing a payroll, are you thinking? That's the first thing in my mind. You know, am I thinking when I'm doing this task, or is it a process? And I think that really sort of opens up. And so, you know, I've often said, am I bored? Because quite often I've just got a lot of these things to do, and I've got it to the end of the day. So I think if that's behind me, I'm thinking, well, how might I change this? What shape does it need to be in to change? Yeah, so 10,000 plus numbers a month. I think the new onboards are great because they're coming into the new system. That's exactly as we've planned. That's it. So we get them all sorted out. We've got a little bit of legacy that we're working. You know, we're reverse engineering, so that we're making those rules a bit deeper, and the client experience is coming better. But yeah, that you know, hopefully at some point we'll catch all of that up as well, and so the whole system works. But as Gaynor said, within the bot report, you'll get a report at the end of each night, and it tells you how many transactions were in the bank. So if you had a customer who's got 4 bank accounts, one's PayPal, one's Stripe, you'll get that report, and it'll say that it's logged through these bank accounts and how many transactions were there at the beginning, how many it's managed to reconcile, and how many you've got left. So it's really quite easy to sort of hone in and just go back to those ones and say, can I make the rules a little deeper? Why isn't it matching? And that's what we're doing on our existing client base now, just that reverse engineering to make sure they had the same treatment of a process that wasn't available when we first got them in.
Right. So the elephant in the room. Everybody believes that AI and bots are going to take over the world. It's going to lead to all sorts of job losses. People end up not having anything to do. What's your take?
I think in terms of taking over the world, I mean, there's a part of me thinks that, well, they can't make a worse job than the humans are doing, so maybe we should let them. No, I think there are 2 elements to this. There is when it comes to the whole AI thing and all the rest of it, there is almost like a global implication to this. There is how do you control it? How do you control the criminal activity? How do you keep it working for the good? That's not one for us. That's one for world governments. You know, whether or not they're capable is another matter, but that's way out of our pay chain. All we can do is go, how can I make the best use of it? How can I make it work for me, for my family, for my team, for my clients? How can I protect it as best as I can? You know, we're talking here about client data. So as with any process, we've got to think, okay, is it secure? Are we treating this in an ethical way, in a moral way? If you want to get rid of a team member, you know, don't use AI as an excuse to get rid of them, because that's not why you're doing it. You know, I go into so many firms. I was with a firm a couple of weeks back where we were talking about this, and we talked through the processes, and there's a firm about eight team members, and they said, "But what would we do afterwards?" And I said, "Well, you have a choice here. You can carry on doing the dull, boring, mundane stuff that you're doing, or you can pass that over to the bot. And then, what do you want to do? That's the next conversation. What do you want to do? Let's have a work. You know, what sort of firm do you want? What sort of working hours do you want? What sort of areas do you want to develop? What new skills do you want to pull through?" This isn't about, you know, I think it will cost jobs going forwards because we'll need to employ less people going forwards. But that's happening in every single profession, every single trade right across the world. Yeah, we employ, when I came in to the profession, a firm of the size of NumberCrunchers, you know, 40 years ago would probably be employing 400 clients, you'd be employing 20 odd people. You know, that is a movement. And let's face it, not everybody wants to be an accountant or a bookkeeper anyway. So the market is going smaller. But I think we shouldn't overthink it. We just go, look, here's an opportunity to do some real good. If we can't make a significant difference to our clients because we don't have the time or the information to do so, here's an opportunity for us to correct that, so we can then have meaningful conversations with clients and change lives, in all honesty. You know, because the difference you make for your own firm, you make those differences for the clients as well. Clients are getting better holidays. Clients are getting more time off. let the government worry about the big stuff. And if we implode, we implode. But in the meantime, all we can do is the best that we can do for ourselves and for our clients.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We certainly haven't lost any staff or plan to lose any staff because of the introduction of the bot. Far from it. It actually allows us to attract better staff, because you're not saying to a qualified accountant, oh, could you just sit there and click OK for an hour or two because we haven't had time to do the bookkeeping. You're saying to them, can you look at this set of management accounts and add some value that you've trained to do? So yeah, I think the attraction of more interesting team members is probably one of the big advantages of the bot.
Yeah, the other thing I would also say is, do you want the job that you've made for yourself? Because often, you start off as a single accountant practice, and you're running this. And certainly, I got to that. And look at your hours, look at your job. Do you want that job? And if you wouldn't apply for your own job, then maybe you should think about sort of outsourcing some of these bits out and make the job that you do want for yourself. If we look at the sort of like, is it a sort of risk? Will it replace jobs? Well, I don't think we worried too much about the sort of typewriter industry when we were getting on with the computer industry, and jobs will come and go. And as Richard said, at low level, you cannot help people go for the more convenient routes. It will do that. It can't replace that sort of high multi-invoice match at the moment. Maybe that will come in time, Kaneo. You've probably got ideas working, but at the moment it will do a heck of a lot of the stuff that you probably don't want to do. So make your job better. And so to say, I think the time to start is just get on with it. There's no right time. I don't think there was a right time for the NumberCrunchers. Just look at it and just say, can I make change? I might, do I want this job? And how does it do it? And I think for us, it was right for change.
Absolutely. And I think fair point. And there's one other, this other factor. There's someone, I can't remember who mentioned it, but there is a paucity of talent. There are less and less people who want to do certain types of jobs. So there's a lot of competition out there for good people, and the good people want to do value add work rather than the boring and the mundane. So there is that to think about as well. But today I was reading in Forbes magazine, right, about what is likely to happen, right? So again, it's about trends. What's ultimately going to happen is that AI, including bots, will end up doing a lot of, because they're going to get smarter. We can't help. They're going to get smarter. So the smarter they get, the more they'll be picking up the complex processes. So now they're starting with the simple, but ultimately they're going to start picking up the more complex ones. So jobs will be redefined, right? And I go back 30 years, before we started, Richard and I was talking about reinventing oneself. And I go back 30, 40 years, and you're thinking 30 years, you're thinking the changes that have happened, people have had to learn new skills to be able to adapt to change in technology. And it cuts across, it's not just digital technology, it could be industrial technology as well. So I think that's what's likely to happen, is we're going to see jobs change as we get more and more of these AI assistants pick up roles within various firms, not just accounting.
Yeah, I think it's I love meeting people like Gaynor and Howard who are excited by what they do and by what they're trying to achieve in their firm and what the future looks like. I go into so many accounting firms where it's just frustration and stress and people accepting that this is the way it is. And as Gaynor and Howard are living proof that it isn't like that. You can change it, and but you have. That's why I say it does start with mindset. You've got to want to change. And any change has its challenges, but the first point is you've got to want to do it. And you've got to look beyond where your firm is today, because in most cases your firm is where it is as a consequence of the historical routes that we've been along. We're now at a junction where we don't have to carry on down that same path if we don't want to. We can do. People haven't got to go and have Berties and Alexas lurking in every corner of the business. They can do, it's their firm, they can do what they like with it. But the flip side is NumberCrunchers is Gaynors and Howard's firms, and they're doing what the hell they like with it. And if you want a more if you want your team to step up, if you want your team to be excited, if you want your team to be engaged, yeah, it is an opportunity to reskill. It is an opportunity for people to learn new things, to get involved in different things. Up until now, they've not even had the time to do that because they've got another 500 items to sit down and tick off and reconcile. Yeah, and as someone who spent the first 10 years of their career pretty much ticking bank statements and know how much that limits you. Yeah, but I always look beyond that. Like, I want to be in front of clients. I want to be out there talking to clients about their businesses and their families and what they want to achieve. This enables us to do that if that's what we want to do. If we want to just go, as NumberCrunchers do, if you want to sort of focus on that compliance route, which has huge value, here's a way to do it really, really well. And at the same time, yeah, Howard can have his day off if Gaynor allows him.
I think we should definitely have that conversation offline. But, yeah, on our walls on both our depots, we were both allowed a quote, and my quote is, "If you can dream it, you can do it." And that's it. Just open your mind, dream it, and do it.
We're a husband and wife team. We're both accountants. We have been for donkey's years. Since 1994, my wife has only worked 3.5 days a week. Yeah, because that was the rule that we set. Yeah,
she's never speaking to Howard ever.
Well, she was supposed to come back to 5 days a week when the kids were 5 at school, where the kids are all in the mid to late 20s and 30s now, and that has never happened. But it does back to its basic principle. It's your firm. You can do what you like with it. Yeah, and what automation does is give us the freedom to make those sorts of choices.
Mm-hmm. So Richard, okay, from your experience working with loads and loads of accountants, what would you advise? What would be because you've talked about mindset, you talk about change. Advise anybody listening on the first steps. What should they be doing today, tomorrow, next week?
I think it's very easy to say they should contact you and sign up for a trial and do it. But I do think there's some consideration before that. NumberCrunchers make this work because they know what they want to be. And they knew what they wanted to be at that time. And thinking of the other firms who are going down this route, generally they know what sort of firm they want to be, and therefore they have at least an idea of where automation is going to fit into that. Whether they want to be advisory or compliance or anything in between, I think you've got to at least first of all have this basic idea of I know what I'm trying to do here. I think if you're completely lost, then you're going to it makes the implementation of these sort of changes harder. So I think there's just now for some people that's easy because they know already. For others, it's a 5-minute reminder that they know. But for others, it's maybe, okay, we need to sit down for a day and actually get a black piece of paper and work out what we are really trying to do here. Then you can go to automation and go, right, where does that then fit in? Because, what this is now where we need to give Gaynor a call, we need to get them in and because we can have a conversation. Otherwise, you'll know yourself, you're going into the firm and they're going to go, okay, what can you do for us? And you ought to go, well, what are you trying to do? And if they don't know, it's a struggle, isn't it?
Absolutely. I'm always thinking. So whenever I'm speaking with clients, this goes back years and years. It's always people, which is the person, process, and then technology. What is it that you want? What systems and processes do you have that working today, and how can we apply technology automation to it? So, and I think that's the thing. With Gaynor and Howard, you could see, they already knew where they were going. They'd already started the systemization journey, and all we're doing was cranking it up a notch with true automation.
Yeah, I think we limit ourselves because we don't know the how, and therefore we don't start to think about the why or the what. And I think all I'm saying is do that bit first, do the why and the what, because you can give them the how. That's once you've worked out the first bit. But if you don't know where you're trying to go, it's very hard to give someone directions, isn't it?
Absolutely. We're coming up to 5 minutes too. So I'm wondering, so right about now, probably be Gaynor, Howard, what will be your advice to anybody that's listening? Any other things that you want to share, lessons that you've learned, things you want people to avoid?
My advice. Sorry, you go first.
I was just going to say that I think everything that's been said is really sensible. There's no point in getting technology, and if you're against it, if you don't really think you want it to work, don't waste Gaynor time. be committed to it and it will work. It's as simple as that. If you want to make it work, it will work because it does. But yeah, I think the bigger picture is, what do you want out of life? What do you want out of the business? And get get your ducks in a row before you go for it. But once you have decided this is the route for you, it is mind blowing, and I think we're just at the beginning of this journey. I mean, 6 months in, difference it's made and the potential we see is super exciting, and we had this sort of franchise dream, and I think this has made us realize how touchable that is. So, like I say, we've got 2 depots, we're working on a third, and yeah, I think in the fullness of time we'll have a really sort of plug and play package that will give us the lifestyle that we want to have, and give a lot of people who maybe don't quite have the boldness to go down their own company route the support that they need. And part of that is NumberCrunchers, part of it is the technology behind the NumberCrunchers, and a big part of that is the bot. So yeah, I think small steps, start with a few clients, do the grunt work, get your rules in place, and then roll it out over the rest of your client base. And thank you very much, Kaneo. That's my biggest takeaway. I'm very glad we met you.
You're welcome, always.
Yeah, my advice would be, I would say, don't let the client determine how you're going to deliver your service. It's your service. And I think yours is the key. Ours was always Dex and Zero. Working with you is unlock that key to deliver it, even supercharge that service. It's just even better. And if the client feels an awkward fit, they are or not awkward fit, just say it's not our cup of tea, and you'll find the ones that are a good fit. So don't let them determine how you're going to deliver the service. If you want to deliver 5-star, don't let them chip away at the edges so that you're delivering 2-3-star, because that's not what you're aiming for. Other than that, I think last week you said to us, Kaneo, maybe it's your passing shot, and you were going to say the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is to plant it is today. So get started.
Thanks a lot, Howard. And any final words, Richard?
Well, first of all, just to pick up on Howard's, because that's a great point. It's your firm. Don't let the client dictate hours. You're always going to work in the best interest of the client. So therefore, do it your way. Don't let the client dictate. But other than that, just don't be scared of it. We all drive cars that are full of technology that none of us understand. But we drive the car because we buy into that. We don't need to dig under the bonnet. You look under the bonnet, you can see very little anyway. And it's this: don't overthink it. Just think about what you're trying to do as a firm. There will be a place for automation in your firm, whatever you're trying to do, but just get that clarity first, and then drop you an email.
Thanks a lot, Richard. Thanks.
Very affordable as well. That's all I would say. Very affordable in terms of value for money. It really is. It's a no-brainer. When we looked at it and we looked at the price, just getting going, it was just no-brainer.
Yeah, when you look at the recruitment fee for one member of staff, it's nothing, is it?
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, guys. That's on that very, very happy note. Anybody that wants to have, as Gaynor, Howard, and Richard probably know already, I love talking about automation and bots in particular. And for us, this is it. Give it a trial. Have a conversation. Happy to have more of a conversation. Happy to give anybody a trial if it makes sense to just dip your toe in gently and then decide whether it's for you or not. That would be the advice. I was going to say the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today, but Howard took it over from me. So thank you very much for that.
It's brilliant. I loved it. I'm quoting it every day.
Well, really, it's been a pleasure, guys. And I know we still have loads of questions. Unfortunately, we're out of time. So don't be surprised if we get you guys on another chat sometime in the future.
Yeah, happy to.
Thanks a lot.
No worries.
Thank you for having us.
No worries. Okay, that's a wrap. See you guys later.
See you later. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.